Karoline Leavitt really lashing out at Democrats and arguing that they're selectively leaking some of these documents in order to try and embarrass the president. She writes, quote, "The Democrats selectively leaked emails to the liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear President Trump. The unnamed victim referenced in these emails is the late Virginia Giuffre, who repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier to her."
So here's how the White House, via Karoline Leavitt, responded to the bombshell release of even more damning Epstein documents. Leavitt dismissed the emails as a manufactured hoax by the Democratic Party to smear President Trump and called the news coverage bad faith efforts to distract from his accomplishments. And here's how Representative Jasmine Crockett reacted to the news.
Listen, they will do and say anything to cover themselves. You know, I will admit that Donald Trump has been investigated more than the normal, but he just happens to be more corrupt and more criminal than any other president than we've had. While we don't know exactly what crimes he may or may not have committed, just think of it this way. If you know that you didn't do anything, then why is it that you would be twisting members of your own party's arms, trying to get them not to release it? This would be exonerating. If you know that you are free and clear, then why not say, you know what, release the files? In fact, he campaigned on releasing the files because he didn't realize that anything that he was involved in whatsoever was involved in the files.
Now, on that point of the White House trying to strong-arm House Republicans into bailing on their commitments to force a vote on the release of the full Epstein files.
Lauren Boebert, of course, a single member of Congress, not a leadership member, not on any key committees, had that meeting in the Situation Room with the Attorney General of the United States, with the Deputy Attorney General, with the FBI Director. And of course, Lauren Boebert is one of the Republicans who has said she would cross over and sign that discharge petition, which would allow the House to go forward and vote on releasing the Department of Justice Epstein files.
Well, Leavitt claimed the meeting showed, transparency. Trump had personally called Republican allies in an effort to get them to withdraw their names from the discharge petition. This included a very early wake-up call to Republican Lauren Boebert and phone tag with Nancy Mace. Reportedly, the White House even enlisted key officials in an effort to persuade Boebert. While Boebert allegedly told reporters that she wasn't going to budge and remove her signature from the petition, the fact that a meeting took place with so many key players in the administration with a lone member of Congress should raise some eyebrows.
The president has tried to call this all a hoax. I don't think you have this many people dying around a hoax. I don't think you have somebody trying to hide files around a hoax. We know that there's something there. We know that his own attorney general had to admit that he is in the files, but they are trying to hide stuff. The only reason that we have these emails is because we were able to get them from the estate.
Jasmine Crockett's response is the voice of everyone demanding accountability. When she calls out the lack of transparency and the dubious handling of this case, she is speaking for the survivors. Later on in the day, Leavitt would address the Epstein emails, once again going even further than her initial statement.
Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
We need to understand the intent here. The goal of Democrats in releasing these emails wasn't to prove that Trump 100% committed a crime. It was to further flesh out the details of their relationship and directly contradict the White House's previous deflections. When you have Epstein allegedly writing that Trump spent hours at my house with a victim, or telling Michael Wolff, of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop, raises huge questions about what Trump knew and when. It's exactly why you keep pushing for more information to come out, because these emails certainly don't 100% prove that Trump didn't commit a crime, despite what Leavitt claims.
In the interest of transparency, why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to get these out to the public.
Let's be clear, the only reason the Oversight Committee was able to get a hold of these files was because Democrats on the committee kept forcing the issue, demanding more information. The Trump administration had turned over relatively few non-public materials, leading Democrats to allege it's part of a cover-up to protect Trump from scrutiny. Meanwhile, the Republicans released 20,000 pages of documents in a clear attempt to overshadow the Democrats' bombshell emails.
This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury testimony, which we know, unfortunately, a judge declined those requests. So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now, they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This wasn't an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump, as we have, of course, seen with this government shutdown.
It is utterly absurd for Leavitt to claim that the Republicans, with Donald Trump at the helm, care about victims of sex crimes. Trump is the one urging Republicans to block the release of the files. Furthermore, convicted co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell was interviewed by the Trump Justice Department and is now seeking a pardon or commutation from President Trump. Maxwell also mysteriously received preferential treatment and was transferred to a cushy federal prison camp after meeting with Trump's deputy attorney general. Now, this is not the behavior of people seeking justice for survivors. It is the behavior of people running a cover-up operation.
And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C., and it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump.
But given your interest in transparency, Karoline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency, having discussions with members of Congress about various issues. And I'm not going to detail conversations that took place in the Situation Room, in the press briefing room.
Leavitt's claim of transparency regarding the secret Situation Room meeting with Boebert, that's a joke, folks. What struck me the most about this new release is the sheer leverage Jeffrey Epstein believed he held. Epstein told Maxwell Trump was the dog that hasn't barked, meaning he was grateful Trump was staying quiet. Wolff even suggested to Epstein that he could either save Trump to generate a debt or hang him to generate political currency. The delay of the government shutdown, which, of course, we know Speaker Mike Johnson unnecessarily prolonged for 7 weeks, that was intended to block the swearing in of Democrat Adelita Grajova, who provided the 218th signature needed to force the Epstein vote. Johnson obstructed democracy to protect Donald Trump. The people are demanding the truth. And the MAGA establishment, well, they're terrified, aren't they?